Kristen Welker also repeatedly pushed back on the president's lies about the January 6th insurrection and election fraud. Take a listen.
Do you think anyone who attacked police officers on January 6th should get taxpayer money?
I wouldn't be inclined to say so, but I have to see it. I can tell you this, 97% of those people, you look at them, the FBI or whoever it was, because you had a lot of crooked cops, you had dirty cops. Comey was a dirty cop.
Well,
a guy like Bolton was a dirty cop.
But there's no evidence.
Wait a minute. Oh, you think Comey was a straight
people
cop?
who pleaded guilty to assaulting police officers.
Comey was a dirty cop.
No, but
they had
the people
FBI.
who assaulted police
Listen
officers.
to me. They had FBI agents ushering them into the building. They had FBI go into the building. Those people walking around, they're looking, oh, isn't this nice? They weren't in. They were being ushered into the building.
Sir. There's no evidence.
You had a bunch of dirty cops, and frankly, what they did was weaponization of our government.
But, sir,
there's
let me
a
ask
lot
you
of
about
evidence.
Todd Blanche. Let me ask you about Todd Blanche.
Listen to me.
Let's talk
There's
about Todd Blanche.
tremendous evidence. There's nothing but
not
evidence.
been presented
The election
in a
was
court of
rigged.
law.
It was a dirty election.
Mr.
And it's
President,
happening again right now in California.
You've never presented evidence.
It's happening
that the
right now in
2020 election
California.
was rigged.
Right now, it's look at what's
Where's
happening in
the evidence
California.
to that?
It's
The
4
Republicans
days.
are doing well in
California. It's no, they're not. They're dropping fast because it's a rigged election. Let me tell you, it's 4 days, and they aren't even close to coming up with.
That's how they count
You know
the
why they're
votes in
doing that?
California.
Because they're cheating on the election.
Do you have evidence to support
all
that?
I have to do is look. All I have to do is look.
That's not evidence.
And I listen to people, and let's see what happens.
But, sir, that's not evidence.
Do you think it's appropriate?
That's how they count the votes in California.
Do you think it's appropriate that they have an election and 5 days later they're nowhere close to picking a winner?
State and local officials acknowledge they are slow. They're urging.
No, they're crooked.
They're urging the votes to be counted quickly. That's how they vote in California.
They're crooked, just like you're crooked. Your press is crooked, and Meet the Press is crooked.
To be fair, I'm not crooked, but let's
really.
Let's
well,
continue.
You play right into their hands.
Let's continue.
You're either crooked or you're stupid. You play right into their hands with this rap. You know that these elections are rigged. Your network knows that they're rigged. You know that I won an election in a landslide, and I got 94% bad press.
But, Mr. President,
you know why I got that? Because you have no credibility.
But you've never presented evidence that it was rigged. Let's keep talking about. I want to talk about Todd Blanche.
You have more evidence. There's more evidence than ever presented.
Let's talk about
your elections in this country. We're like a third world country.
But, sir,
your elections are crooked, and you're crooked, and Meet the Press is crooked, and so is ABC and CBS and CNN.
But, Mr. President,
you're one-sided crooked networks. All right, let's call it quits because I've had enough. Thank you, darling. Have a good time.
Mr. President, let's please.
Okay, so one can become overwhelmed. So let's just go back to the beginning where he said those folks were ushered in by the FBI. And let's stop right there. Let's stop right there. Let's bring it up. Because then he continued to lie more and lie more and lie more. And then you get, overwhelmed or frustrated. And then he's lied for 2 or 3 minutes. Stop right there. Lying to the American people. Those folks had zip ties. They had a noose. They had weapons in some cases. They defecated at the Capitol, in the halls. They're criminals who were convicted of their crimes. I know the president pardoned them because for some reason in his twisted thinking that these people deserve something more than what they got. Many of them have gone out to commit more crimes since they've been pardoned. Republicans and Democrats alike were running for their lives. So, everybody has different interviewing styles, and that was absolutely a great effort. But I would stop at the first lie. I wouldn't allow any lies on my program. Joe certainly hung up on the president when he was running for office and started lying. Just hung up on him because you can't have lies. And then this is, some would argue, a strategy. Beat up the media, and so the base can get all excited to see him calling Kristen Welker stupid. You don't allow it. We can't have a complicit media. We can't be involved at all with spreading lies. We can't watch him tell lies and not call them out right away and stay with that first one, because they're all lies. Everything that was said in there, we could go through each one and show how it's a lie. But what he likes is that moment where everyone gets flustered and watches this drama play out, while the president takes something that was twisted, sick, and criminal that happened at our nation's capital. Show the video. You can show the video of the cop getting squeezed in the door, being injured. You can hear, oh, that. Is that the FBI ushering them in? Or is that a cop getting very injured and his life threatened? And I believe at the same time that this was happening, American flags and Trump flags were used to gore people and bash through windows and commit vandalism and try and interfere with the nation's electoral process. Jonathan Lemire.
Yeah, I mean, these are the footage that we show all the time, these images of cops being assaulted, some of whom died in the days later. And let's remember, there's no evidence that the FBI ushered anybody in. But even if they did, that was the FBI under a Donald Trump Department of Justice. Donald Trump, President Trump, was still president on January 6, 2021. There was no Biden FBI. Biden had not taken the oath of office yet. This was, it's a complete farce. And Ben, I mean, first of all, we should note there's a little further clip where Trump takes off the microphone and even steps on it. You can hear the crunch of the NBC microphone breaking as part of the fit he threw during this interview on Friday. And yes, there are we can talk about it through the lens of politics and say Republicans, they don't like this. This doesn't help them in November. We all know that. But let's actually take a step bigger, to Mika's point. This is the President of the United States. Thank you. Thinking it is okay to go on television and lie over and over and over to not only his interviewer, but to the American people. And to think that that's where we are right now, that this is the behavior that he has decided for a decade now is acceptable, and that he has people cheerlead him on as he does so. It is something that is fundamentally damaged and about our democracy right now that he's able to do this. And I worry about where we're heading, not just between now and November, but in the years ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I do think what you saw there is he's created, an alternate history that I think probably most Americans don't believe, but a lot do. And I think, you're going to, and rest of our careers, there's going to be a big chunk of Americans for whom that is the true history, of January 6th, of his first administration. I mean, I think the other thing you saw really was a argument that the American political system just isn't legitimate, that the reported outcomes of elections aren't real. And that whoever you think ought to win is the winner. And I think, I'm not sure whether or not that is preparation for some kind of organized plan to meddle in the midterms, which, we actually haven't really seen a ton of evidence for, or just to ignore election results rhetorically and to prepare himself for a second 2 years in which he basically ignores the legitimacy of a Democratic Congress.